So I was just going to summarize quickly what I heard from Amanda was she said that she doesn't believe Christianity is true, not because she can't demonstrate that it's not true, but because she just doesn't see a good reason to believe it.
Well,
But
you
even if
can't
it's not
demonstrate that
true,
it's real
but here's
either.
the important part,
That's
even
kind
if
of the
it's
point.
not true, it still produces a better experience of life and less suffering than her worldview does.
The idea that just because people may believe that a lie makes them happy is not really a good thing, in my opinion. I mean, there's
Based
lots
on
of
what?
there's lots of really great things that I could believe. Like, I'm gonna go out tomorrow and I'm gonna get nominated for all kinds of awards and all these accomplishments, and that may not be true at all. Now, it might make me very happy in the moment, but the fact that I'm profiting happiness from a lie. That's fine if that's the way you want to live your life, but whether it means
Snare
that
number
you then
3,
get
ladies and
to
gentlemen.
impose
Watch
that
this.
same
Oh boy.
fictitious joy onto something that doesn't need it in the first place is just a little silly to me.
Oh boy.
Well, it might be silly to you, but from your own utilitarian worldview, can you tell me why that would be wrong? Because from a utilitarian perspective, a lie that makes everyone happy and provides better well-being and more positive experiences and less negative experiences would have to be good. It would have to be good.
I don't know how to make this argument to you other than to personalize it. Let's say your child ends up becoming an anti-natalist. Okay? You've done everything possible to make sure that they have a good life, that they're happy, that they believe in God, they have all of your values. And let's say they end up being somebody more similar to myself. Can you still justify that you were right in making the decision to have them, even though they may be in incredible amounts of pain over this realization about life?
Of course, because ultimately it is you and it would be that child who would be choosing to have that perception. So you and other people with your same worldview this is what the data says, is that people with anti-natalist worldviews, utilitarianism, leftism, are notoriously more likely to be depressed, to be suicidal.
Well, yeah, because we're facing reality.
But you can't demonstrate that that's what the case is. You can't demonstrate that your reality is the true reality and that my perception of reality is false.
It ultimately doesn't matter. It doesn't matter the fact of the matter is you are saying that something that may not be true is worthy of your offspring being miserable. Sorry, I don't know if we're allowed to swear on this channel.
Yeah, you can.
But I'm just saying it may you are
the real her is coming.
It's coming. That God might not exist. That it may all be, you might be 100% wrong, and you're not taking the fail safe. You're rolling the dice with their welfare.
Amanda, you said that you believe in negative utilitarianism. So even from your worldview, if I can demonstrate that helping people believe a cozy lie gives them a better life and less suffering, you would have to bite the bullet and say that that's better than your view, which you just said makes people miserable, nihilistic, and want to self-delete.
Well, but that's a misunderstanding of negative utilitarianism, because it is not that anything imaginable that might alleviate some suffering is the right way to go. It's the argument for how to end suffering. It doesn't mean that we need to predicate all of negative utilitarianism on, convenient, happy lies. It's to try to find reasonable means of alleviating suffering. Now, listen, anti-natalists, again, not a monolith. Extinctionism, not what all negative utilitarianists, anti-natalists believe. There's other anti-natalist philosophers like David Pearce, who believes that what we should be doing is, re-editing the human genome to not suffer. There are other.
That was brutal, dude.
Rare, actually. I think
that was fucking brutal.
That, if we could, gerontologists
and fun. It was fun to watch.
Aubrey de Grey, and I think the philosopher John Harris also makes
her own flawed logic defeated her.
If we could, dramatically extend human life, that there would be less reason or maybe no reason to have children, or that there would have to be some trade-off. So there's all kinds of other possible answers to this conundrum. It doesn't have to be that. I mean, it is the perspective that I take on. I think it's better to just not mess with it and to end it. But yeah, I mean, there's all kinds of different answers that don't have to settle for the easy answers of, well, let's just feed people a God story and that'll make them happy.
So, do you believe that there's such a thing as objective reality, and that your version is more objective and mine is more fantastical and fabricated for the purposes of helping me cope with the horrors of life?
Arguments of cope. I don't know. I don't know you all that well. I don't know if this is what you're doing to cope with the realities of life. I mean, that's an argument that I don't make ever, and that's not my point in saying any of this.
Well, let me ask you this. Do you think men can be women and women can be men?
I think that we should honor what people say about their individual experience.
So lie.
So you are perfectly fine.
I really don't know why you brought up that subject all of a
fabricating
sudden.
an internal reality if it makes them happy. Just not the Christians.
I don't.
But the Christians, they're silly.
I would say that you're doing
yes. Destroyed.
Really knowing that something terrible can happen than somebody who has an internal reality that might not make. Now, I mean, again, that may be a reality that befalls a child you will have. So if that makes you so unhappy, if that is a possibility that makes you that I get the sense fills you with some level of disgust, I don't know why you would roll those dice.
No,
why?
I didn't say it. Now listen, this is where you're assigning intent to me. You said you don't know me and you don't know about me, and I didn't say that anything about my own personal disgust or one of my children.
I just don't know
why you bring it up. If one of my children becomes there's nothing I can do about it. I did my best, and that's how the cookie crumbles. That doesn't get us away from the fact that your argument is completely contradictory and totally incoherent, because you think that when Christians assert that a God might exist, or that at least living in such a way that a God might exist and taking Pascal's wager is silly, delusional. You don't see it's an argument from incredulity that you don't see a good reason to believe it. You think your reality is true, but then you'll also say that if you find utility in pretending to be a lady when you're a dude with a beard, that is perfectly acceptable and a fine thing to do. Please square that circle.
Please do.
All kinds of words into my mouth.
Please square that circle.
Is that I think
please square that circle.
You're free to be a Christian. If that's what you believe and that's what you want to believe, that's the world.
Now you're gonna switch. Here. You're gonna pivot to a libertarian. Hey, you do you, I'll do me. No. You are advocating for the extinction of all life on this planet, ma'am, and you'd better have a better argument and a more coherent argument than, I don't really believe Christianity, but if a man wants to believe that he can be a woman, go for it, buddy. But let's bring
into any of this. Why are you doing that?
It's
not the arguments I'm making at all.
I'm pointing out that this is all a facade. Your whole theory, your book that you wrote, the videos you've made, it's all incoherent. It's a contradiction. You are in mental contradiction. You can't give me any arguments for why we ought to do what you're saying we ought to do, other than you just think it's better. And you can't tell me how we're going to get there. You're like, well, we don't have the technology to do it now, but I still think we should try. And I say, what if that results in infinitely more suffering? And you're like, I don't know, I just think we should still try. It's like, if you're going to write philosophy books with people and publish them in Cambridge, I expected better. I'm just a homeschool mom with a high school diploma, and you are presenting incoherent arguments that don't work. And
you guys are really nice
logic here. So maybe you can express it better.
You are also espousing that there might not be a God. You're admitting that you might be wrong as well, and that if you have a child under that belief, you might be doing them harm. So I
let me
don't
clarify,
have, I
because
have never at any point said that I have all the answers or that I know what the end game looks like, but it is my firm belief. It is not a delusion, or is not a facade. It is not something that I am espousing for whatever nefarious ends, that it would be better if we played the failsafe. And
There's
it
a
would be
magnet in
better
my
if
hand.
nothing
It's not my
sentient
fault.
was in harm's way.
There's a
And it
magnet in
would
my
be better if
hand, and
life
there's a
itself was
magnet in
in
her
harm's
wrist, and
way, because it is
I
not
can't
running a
help it.
profit, because
I
there's
can't help
absolutely
it.
no reason to do it. It is here
I know. I love my
by
wife. It's
pure
cringe. I know.
aberrant
Cringe.
chemistry, and we
Go
value
ahead.
it.
Give me the
living,
cringe.
you know, we need it to be good. We need it to have all of this meaning that goes beyond the terrestrial meaning that we can assign to it. But if there, I mean, if there is any doubt that that might be the case, that God doesn't exist, and that if there is any doubt in your mind that a God exists, and if I am in any way correct that all you are doing is rolling the dice with the sentient welfare of the things you espouse to love the most.
Andrew loves his wife.
Again,
I
I just
know.
don't understand
It's
how you can
cringe.
possibly
I know.
justify that decision.
Stupid Andrew.
Let's go back once again and just point out that the reason you're like, I don't understand why you're bringing this up. I'm going to call it Matt Dillahunty's dilemma, right? That you and other atheists will say to Christians that it's actually not good for you guys to come up with these lies and these things that aren't true, these fantasies that you, even if they help you cope with life, even if people report more meaning and purpose, less suffering, a reason to suffer, you know, that you find purpose in the suffering if you're going to suffer anyway, that it's not worth it because it's not in touch with reality. But then you guys are perfectly willing to allow other people to have internal fantasies, as long as those things, for example, feminism. If you don't like let's take feminism. Letting women believe that they're just like a man, that they can do anything a man can do, and that their rights do not exist explicitly at the behest of men who are willing to enforce those rights is Delulu Fantasyland. Yet you will all inevitably argue that we should continue it because it's better, because women might suffer more if we don't let them. Yet when Christians say, you can't prove to me that there's no God. You cannot demonstrate that Christ didn't rise from the dead, or that God didn't create us in his own image for a purpose. You can't, and no one else has ever demonstrated that. You just find it incredulous, and therefore you think there's a risk there in people being born. Yet when we ask people, you're in this tiny minority. It's something like, I don't know, probably 97% of all people, despite their suffering on this earth, say they prefer to live. And you're saying they're all crazy, and you're the one who has the coherent view. Yet when I demonstrate it's incoherent, you have nothing but equivocation. You won't actually address the problem of how is it okay for you to grant other people delusions if it helps them cope, but not Christians? Why is it okay?
Because
The
again,
whole point,
they're not creating new people. You're creating new people.
well, you
I've
haven't,
said it a million times. You are the
yeah,
one
you
rolling the
haven't
risk.
demonstrated to me
Whoa.
that more people equals more
Whoa.
suffering. I'm saying
They're
I'm
not creating
positing that
new
more
people. That's
should,
why.
and does equal less suffering, and you have nothing to say to that. If we continue to depopulate the planet and get rid of humans, we are left with anybody ever watch the Discovery Channel?
I think that
Animal
I
Planet?
think that we
You
run
ever
the risk
watch
of there
jackals
being
eating
more
things alive from the feet
suffering
up?
without more people if we do so without some sort of plan. Right
But
now,
you're
everything
telling
is
me you don't have a
happening.
plan.
No, I know, and neither do you. Is the point? The
Yeah,
point,
I do have a
if
plan.
we
My plan is
depopulate,
more Christians. More Christian pronatalism equals a kinder world, a more benevolent world of people who have a reason to be
and
moral
I
and
think
to
that
care.
that world has already failed miserably. If people
Nobody agrees with you, ma'am. Everybody who's here wants to
okay,
live,
that's
except for
fine.
you and a handful of other
And
just
they're
genic,
free to
miserable troll people